You know, I'd have to look. I think it's a 1990s technology, Behringer, and I upgraded from it, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and got another one, and I'm getting ready to buy yet another one. I'm getting ready to do some stuff like we did with American Pie. Putting a show together that I'm gonna put up on YouTube, and it's gonna be about things that go fast and things that rock. And there's gonna be three segments to it. One is going to be the vehicle. Guitar is, what's unique about it, its history, the way it's built, and what it's used for. And then the third segment is going to be my performance, and I'll use the guitar that I feature in that live performance. So that's what we're getting ready to do, is record video the music segments of it. So that's why I gotta get a new board. Yeah.
The reason that I asked is because I'm working the auditorium right now.
Yeah.
And the board, have you ever been up to the booth?
It's been a long time, and they've got a huge board up
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's literally like, think of like 3 or 4 of these desks put together.
Oh, absolutely.
It's ginormous, but it's all analog, right? It's even got like a little dials up at the top and everything. And I remember because I found it really interesting because this weekend I was working the orchestra concert.
Yeah.
And you would think that it's inferior because it's older, but you can still really get into like the nitty gritty with all the knobs. And like I love like how tactile it is, like just the responsiveness of like turning a dial.
You've made a significant discovery in the realm of sound reinforcement. The beauty of analog. It's real. It's very real. The only problem with a device like that now, and that's the problem I have a 16-track studio basically in my basement. The machine I have is a 1997 technology Yamaha 16-track, but it won't interface with anything, and that's the problem you're going to run into with that board. If I remember correct, I was thinking that was like something ridiculous, like 48 or 56 channels or something.
Yeah, it's close to 50.
Yeah, and now the downside is, with that is its location being up there makes it difficult. You got to have communication between the house, the stage, and up there to regulate things. The other is equipment tends to, over time, get dirt in it, and channels don't function as well. And that's what happened with this board I was talking to Colby about. My first 2 channels, the ones I used the most, goofed up, and I tried to clean them and basically finished them off in the process. But that's a valuable lesson. I'm sure that is a wonderful piece of equipment. And like I said, the disadvantage is it's stuck upstairs, and when we did American Pie, he used the board that the band department has.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and see, when I was your age, that's been a while, obviously. A 16-track recorder was probably about the size of a washer or dryer, size-wise. And then they had the channels that went up, but everything in the deck underneath was all the mechanicals that drove the tape. And the good ones used 2-inch tape, which in the late 1970s, that 2-inch tape sold for about $100 a reel in the 1970s. That was a different $100 than right now. It's probably somewhere close to maybe 500 nowadays. That recorder alone in those days would have been anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 in 1976 dollars. That's why you didn't have a 16-track studio in your basement. Then you had to have a board. And again, you're getting into, for high fidelity, was expensive equipment. Button, 2 buttons, play, record, and you're recording. On my Yamaha, you got to go through about 8 steps before you can hit record. The good side of the Yamaha, the digital, I can go back and record over it and play it over and over as many times as I want without diminishing the sound of it. Just think of it like this. The way magnetic tape worked, okay. The quality was always less on those. They tended to get more abused in running the thing, so you'd put something like a kick drum on that outside, because it wouldn't affect it as much as it would on vocals. Went through an associate's degree in audio technology at IU. When I finished my degree, I ran out of money, so I couldn't finish it. But I was still working in the age of magnetic tape and analog stuff, and they were just starting to transition, and, you know, I wanted to play guitar. For us, for American Pie, his dad plays keyboards in my band, and I've known him for a long time. He goes to Anderson College, and or Anderson University, and that's where he is studying audio or music production, whatever it is. You might talk to him. If you're really interested in it, for you, you wouldn't have any biases of the past to deal with. It's whatever you go into, you're gonna go right into it. But that's cool. You got that experience. Most people have absolutely no clue
what that is.
about his stuff, and almost in not such a good way, because it's hard for him to now go enjoy some sort of a performance without listening to it and thinking this needs fixed.
Yeah.
You know, he can't get beyond that punk.
And it has like the bad mixing or something.
Manipulate the stuff and fix tracks and do all kinds of cool stuff, but I don't think either one of us were that good with our ears. Huh? Yeah. Now, I honestly is to do it all in-house.
Yeah.
And the difficulty of that at this point is getting his approval about if the equipment's going to sound good enough. And they sounded fine.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to mic drums and stuff.
I was gonna say, this weekend for the Philharmonic, for the orchestra, it sounded, well, we didn't even use mics that much, it was just like that big one.
Yeah, you don't need to,
But, I mean,
but it sounded good.
it still sounded good. The auditorium in general, I feel like the acoustics in it is really good.
It's the best room around.
Yeah.
No room in this community sounds better than that.
And
That's why everybody wants to use it.
I feel like I realized that especially last week, because for a full orchestra, for it to sound as good as it did, I feel like the way it was built, like it really did have sound, like it was intentionally built to sound.
Oh yeah, it was.
For that orchestra, because like, I mean, one, they just play really well, and like, it just sounded really, really well.
mistake any sound person can make in there is turning it up too loud. It doesn't need it out front. Trying to accommodate everybody. He had too many different monitor mixes, and none of them sounded good. And my philosophy about a lot of things is simple is best. Limit the number of mixes and say, look, listen to yourself, learn how to sing and hear yourself and get over it and just move on. We can't have everybody with their own little speaker that's going to have their own volume, and it's not worth it.
I also feel like it's just not necessary.
And I can do it, but I've been doing this stuff forever and a day, and I know how to get around it. But whenever dialed in right, so get this happening so we can move forward. I will say this. I've got some folks that need to get some things caught up, so that is always going to be an issue. So,
What's the name of this folder?
Basic concepts of the Constitution. They thought it would be, and it failed. Now, when failure occurs, there are a couple of different approaches that you can take. One is, if you can recognize something that you know is good, then you keep it, and then you just build on it from there. They wanted it a certain way, what was considered the ideal, because after all, they were used to being independent, and then that stupid French and Indian War came up and brought the British over. Until that time, the colonies were living with relatively few complaints. Life was good. The only legitimate complaint they had before the French and Indian War, and you really had to figure it out if you were in this situation, was they were getting the shaft on money, the economy. Heaven forbid we should have a central government, and we're not. And the whole thing started to fall in on them like a house of cards. That's when they got smart and called the convention. So, what are these basic things? One is separation of powers. And that does not mean this, even though you're going to get this from a lot of sources. For a high-tech factory, or even a low-tech factory for that matter. So, make sure you get that down. What is popular sovereignty? What is that, Eddie?
I'm not sure.
Rule without interference. It does not become the Constitution until the states say so. National government can draw up the ideas and they can approve of it, but it doesn't become real until the people of the states say so. And what was that you said there, the last part of it?
I said our creator and sustain by the consent of his people through their elected representatives.
Okay, the consent of the people, which is expressed through who they elect. Criticisms people may have are based on the people running it. This is the problem. And it starts with James Madison, something he said. He said, if men were angels, there would be no need for government. Well, we know people aren't angels. That's why we have to have government to start with. And the necessary evil in government is we have to have people running. So, next item up, Well, I'm gonna skip to D, checks and balances, while I'm on that roll.
So not like a single branch has power. If you create a check and balances, you're constantly checking the other so it remains equal.
And that's why we need checks and balances, to keep one branch from becoming too powerful. And really what that amounts to is, we could further describe it by saying to keep the people in each branch from becoming too powerful. I probably want less than you guys do, because I'm older. I've been able to get those things. So I want less. But everybody wants something. Keep this in mind too. Anyone that runs for a political office, that's a big thing. Also have their own agenda. They want to keep that power. They want to keep that power by getting reelected. Here's where we have problems. Are the voters always well informed? No. Do they always know what is right and wrong? No. That's the risk. The risk is the voters don't always know enough. They don't always know what is right and wrong. And that doesn't matter to the guy that's running for office. If it's straight down the middle facts, I want to hear it the way I want to hear it. How it suits me. That's the difference between the world you live in now and the world I lived in when I was your age. So I'm convinced I'm right. It's dangerous. That's the dangerous part of it. We want 3 branches that are, what we mean by solid is balanced, equal. They didn't want any of that king business anymore. We got through that. Time to move on. That's what we want. That's what we intend, is 3 branches, but we don't know these exactly how it's going to work out. So over time, the Supreme Court and the judicial branch earned its stripes, so to speak. It became equal. It had to fight for it. Nobody in government back in the day said, nobody in Congress, no president said to the Supreme Court, hey brother, we think you're right there with us, you're equal. No, they never thought of it that way. That could possibly get changed. The history of the Supreme Court in the last 60 years is that, or even more, is they haven't been overturning their rulings. Somebody's going to not be happy, because if they overturn Roe v. Wade, that means all the women and people that were supportive of it are going to be angry. If they don't overturn it, the people that have been fighting to get it overturned are going to be angry. Literally what it says. Who's supreme? Well, they are, in that they have the power to elect, but what I'm saying is, let's think like this, and it's my fault for not explaining it better. Let's think in terms of levels of law. Starting at the top, what's the highest law in this country? No?
The law of natural rights. Rights law?
No, not really. Down a little more than that. Natural rights are included in a lot of things we have in law. Up here is the Constitution, because I liked Nixon as a president. What I didn't understand at 16 was this. The Constitution's up here. Everything else is below it. And the Constitution's got to be up here. which is based on the rule of law. Nixon violated the law. He had two choices. National. Every level, those three, have to abide by the Constitution. Everything's under it. That law violates their constitutional rights, and it's proven in a court of law that it violated their constitutional rights. That law has to go. He spent 2 years in a Florida prison working on it. And we're going to have elections that people aren't going to be happy with. That's just part of it. These ideas have not. And they should never change because they were the right choice to begin with. Federalism, well, let me go back to the Supremacy Clause for one more thing here. When laws conflict, when a state law is in violation of a federal law, what happens? What should happen, Jason? If a state law, according to the Supremacy Clause, if a state law violates national law, what should happen?
If it violates that, then the state, whoever called up the order should be taken out.
Well, not necessarily the individual, but what should be taken out?
What they're doing.
The state law.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Cody? Okay, read it.
The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution of the United States, Article 6, Clause 2, establishes that the Constitution and federal laws may pursue to it, and the treaties made under its authority constitute the supreme law of the land, and thus take priority over the conflicting state laws.
Priority goes with national law and the Constitution. There are over 30 states in this country that are violating the Supremacy Clause right now.
Is it the no abortion laws?
No.
No.
Civil Rights Act.
No. Marijuana. All of those states that legalized it in their state are in violation of federal law. Now, if Congress passed a law that said it's no longer illegal, then the states could still decide if they wanted it or not. They did that with alcohol. I don't know if LaGrange County in Indiana is illegal, but I've been up there a lot. I've never seen any alcohol for sale in that county. Never could. And the liquor stores actually were the ones that were fighting against Sunday sales. And the reason for them, again, money. They were going to have to spend the money, the operating cost of having their store open on a Sunday when they probably weren't going to get that much business. On Sunday, tons of people buy groceries on Sunday. And they're already in the store. Well, they walk down the beer aisle and they grab some beer or liquor or whatever. It didn't take a special trip to another store to get that. Now the trade-off is this. In a grocery store like Kroger or somewhere, you can't buy cold beer. It's all going to be warm. They didn't change that. So if you want to go buy cold beer on a Sunday, you're going to have to go to a liquor store where they sell it cold between the hours of 12 and 8. And that was it. They didn't have it around the store where you could look at it and pick it up and compare prices. You had to know what you wanted and tell them what you wanted and they'd get it. How weird is that, you know?
Kind of smart though.
Well, yeah, it is, but then again, you're able to buy beer 24 hours a day, cold, ready to drink. But yet, if you want liquor, you got to go to that special store. You can't transfer a title on Sunday. And the federal government, federal prosecutor might look at his budget and say, you know what? I don't have the money to spare for this case. I'm going to let the state of Montana try this case that happened in Yellowstone Park. Why? Because they can. And it works perfectly for this country because the states all look at things a little bit differently. If you hit a certain score, it would kick money out. Illegal. Illegal. Until the 1980s. Well, what happened? Here's what happened. Ohio had a lottery. Kentucky had a lottery. Indiana government finally said, look, folks, we got millions of dollars that are leaving this state to go to these other states' lotteries. Wake up. We're going down to Keeneland, the horse track in Lexington. The separation of powers and checks and balances are not the same. We want efficiency in government, so we divide up the work so each branch can specialize and get good. Now, this also extends to the court. The video, you probably don't remember it, but one of the things it said when it was describing the judicial branch was this. Article 3 says, there shall be one Supreme Court. That's the only court that the Constitution created. There were enough laws of specific types of issues that Congress said, you know what? We need to create a court just for bankruptcy cases. And the people that work in those courts, the only cases they're going to deal with are bankruptcy, and they're going to know them inside and out. We need a court to deal with maritime law. Does anyone know what that means? Maritime. No? Marriage is a state function. Maritime means water. The way that stuff works.
Because you have to make sure you're voting on what's passed. Like, again,
No,
like,
that's one thing about that.
kayaks and stuff.
Yeah, kayaks, but if it had a motor on it, different animal. You don't see too many motorboats on driftwood. The water's got to be up pretty good, and you got to know the river too. I don't know what the law is now. I assume 18 on
18 for long arms.
long guns, 21 for pistols. Although you can have a permit at 18 to carry.
Yeah, but a parent or guardian has to be gifted to you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That gets real cloudy in there. How did you get that gun if you're not 21? And then somebody's going to have some sort of paper trail that you were given that gun, and it gets real tricky at that point. So, you gotta follow the law. Now, the thing about permits, the Indiana permit, the handgun permit, is good in 31 states. And then they said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll eliminate the cost of it. Okay, well, the state got money off of it. A lot of it was about money. But the difference was, when I went to get my lifetime permit, I called the police department, made an appointment, went down, filled out some paperwork, gave them the money, got fingerprinted, and they said it'll be 4 to 6 weeks before you're going to get it, and I got it in 3 weeks. Let's put ourselves in the spot of being the crazy guy now.
I want you
Just run up
first.
there and grab it.
Okay, let's say you're gonna go in Walmart and shoot a bunch of people. Who's gonna be your first target?
The guy with the gun.
The guy with the gun on his hip. I'm gonna take him out first. Yeah.
It's just, I think there should be more extenuous mental, like, testing going in, because even though, like, you can, guns end up getting in the wrong, like, how do I explain it? They get into the hands of the wrong person very
They do.
easily.
They do a lot
Not just where
because they're sold illegally. That's how that happens.
Yeah.
The problem with guns in this country is not legal gun owners. It's illegal gun owners.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I'm not a supporter of the NRA. I would never send them any money. But they had a convention in Indianapolis, and they were expecting about 30,000 people. And the news was interviewing these people, and this guy says, "I'm not going down there with my grandkids. It's not going to be safe." And I'm like, dude, you're going to be safer there than anywhere else. Somebody starts anything, everybody's going to pull a gun out. You're going to be a lot safer there.
Yeah.
But again, people that go to that convention that are carrying are legal. They have to be. It's the only way to do it.
Just like the gun and knife show that they usually have with fair guns.
Well, yeah. Or any of the, now the gun shows are a little more regulated on their sales, but the good thing is now they've got computers, and you can instantly go online and apply, and they can answer the question right there. You don't have to pay the guy the money and then pick it up later because you got to get cleared, or they don't have to make a phone call. It's all online.